Hello, and welcome to this week's Movie Math, where you've heard of Houston, we have a problem. Well, now it's Hollywood, we have a problem. Actually, Hollywood has a lot of problems, but they bounce back, and maybe they'll bounce back here. Let's discuss. So the problem I'm talking about is superhero movies. Now, I'm sure some of you are like, hey, Grace, a lot of big superhero movies drop in the 60s in their second weekend. They do, but they also opened bigger. Fantastic Four does not have that distinction. It's not good, although don't worry, I'm going to talk about Superman. Things aren't perfect over there either, which is why it's an overall superhero problem. Now, you see, for the last few years, Hollywood, one of the things that's really making it a problem is that Hollywood has shifted almost all of its eggs to one basket, and that's the superhero genre. But the popularity of genres does not last forever. Just ask the Western, which couldn't have been more popular for 30 years, which is crazy because nobody cares about it now, and it has never been able to make a real comeback since the 1960s, and this thing was so popular. Superhero movies? Well, while 2008 was the year of Iron Man and the Dark Knight, what a year. Blade came out in 1998. Blade love, whenever I mention X-Men in 2000 and Spider-Man in 2002, a lot of you are like, Blade was 1998. So I'm very happy to list it there. But yeah, what are we approaching? 30 years. Oh noes! But then, as some of you are probably already typing as well, the very first Superman came out in 1978, and Batman, just regular Batman, in 1989. And right now, the internet is losing its mind over Tom Holland going full comic book for his new Spider-Man movie. And it is truly glorious, or should I say, amazing. Haha. But, the internet was also extremely excited for Superman, Fantastic Four, and Thunderbolts, and none of their box offices are where they need to be. They're not in the toilet either, though, so I don't think the superhero movie is going to go away, at least not yet, but I do think some things need to change. I'm going to share my theories on what needs to change, or my proposals, in just a moment. And I encourage you to share your own proposals down below for how you think Hollywood can best keep the superhero movie alive. And while you're down there, why not hit that subscribe button, not just for my videos overall, but Tuesday is a special day when not one but two review embargoes lift for some major streaming shows. And I've seen episodes. I can't wait to discuss them with you. I'm under embargo. There's nothing that I can't say anything just yet, but these will be non-spoiler reviews, and they're dropping on Tuesday. Alien Earth in the morning, Wednesday in late in the evening or early morning of Wednesday when the show itself drops. Those are the review embargoes. But you're not going to want to miss those videos. And if you hit subscribe and that little bell notification, you won't. Okay, here we go. And I'm excited to see if we have some of the same suggestions. I'm sure we do. And also, I'm also curious what your outlook is on the superhero genre. Do you feel good about it still? Are you nervous, or are you like, it's done? Wait till you see this lineup for 2026. I actually might feel a little good about it. Okay, so first off, though, we need to make less comic book movies. Marvel said it's going to cap it at three. Oh, thank you. No. Here's more evidence yet again that 3 is too many. You got to make it 2, Feige. Just 2 a year. James Gunn might have the right idea. I know, right? What kind of a crazy, bizarre world are we living in? With one big superhero movie a year and one small one, which is exactly what he's doing in 2026, with big action, spectacular Supergirl, and then low-budget horror film Clayface. So 2 comic book movies a year per franchise, tops. That's it. 2026, as I said, is actually looking pretty responsible from a movie perspective, adding just Sony Marvel's Spider-Man Brand New Day and Disney Marvel's Avengers Doomsday to the list. Although Marvel clearly, for all their promises, has not learned their Disney Plus lesson, because they still plan to flood the market next year with Daredevil Season 2, Vision Quest, and at least for now, they're planning to have Season 2s of both animated series, Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man and X-Men 97. Meanwhile, DC will have Lanterns. I'm so excited. And supposedly animated shows Blue Beetle and Mr. Miracle. Mr. Miracle could be amazing. And then we also have on top of that, the Seth Rogen universe of superheroes, believe it or not, but it's so good. With The Boys season 5 sometime next year, maybe prequel Rising at the end of next year, and of course also Invincible season 4. You know, Invincible took a little bit of time to get back, so it struggled with its season 2 in terms of viewership and attention, but season 3 really came back like a mofo. It was incredible. I will cover season 4 because I think the audience is back for that show. Now that's a lot of content, but it will certainly help if most of it's good. And I gotta say, I'm in a good mood. I would bet, it's surprising I'm in a good mood considering how underwhelming Superman and especially Fantastic Four are at the box office. But that's a really good lineup to me. I'm interested in a lot of this, both on the big and small screen. How about you? Now, speaking of being responsible, bring the budgets down. Both Superman and Fantastic Four have budgets of around $200 million. You can't spend that much if only this much is coming in. Now, I'm not saying you gotta really significantly bring these budgets down so we can't still have the action spectacle that the genre demands, and right now it isn't getting, even at $200 million budgets. Where did the money go? All right, but that's Hollywood or movie math for you. But I'm thinking like we bring it down to 150, 175, I would feel better about that, especially for solo movies, not team movies. I mean, both movies are pretty crowded, but still, they're not Avengers or Justice League movies or a team-up movie like Deadpool and Wolverine. Both of these movies are probably going to break even, but Hollywood isn't in the business of breaking even, right? They're not a nonprofit. They're there to make money. And they're not only there to make money, but they want to see their franchises perform the way they're supposed to, because then they feel they're leaving money on the table. They don't want to see their franchises head in the wrong direction, box office-wise, which is backwards. All right, now, here's my biggest note. Quality control. These movies are not good enough. We are screaming it in the face of Hollywood, but yet they still do not listen. I mean, maybe it's weird. Like, we're also speaking through the box office, but they're always like, what do you think it is? And we're like, well, it's a lot of factors. It is. I think the economy for sure. I think it is too expensive to go to the movies. I think the siren call of your home theater system is strong. But if the movies were better, you would go. So not only are we talking in terms of the quality of the story, but also there isn't enough action in these films, which I'm saying again and again and again this year with all the superhero movies. You need more than one action sequence, preferably 3 or 4, to really make people feel that it's worth heading out to the multiplex. Also, you know, like for instance, Thunderbolts only had 2 really good action sequences, Sentry and the end credit scene. Although I like the escape from the compound, but it's not, those went up on social media right away, which I do think also is a problem. You can watch these movies, it's certainly the best parts, on social media, literally before they even come out in the biggest markets, because people upload them immediately as soon as they hit any market. Also, both Marvel and DC are addicted to making promises for future movies and shows, instead of delivering incredible developments and moments in the movies and shows that we're watching right now. I mean, promises for future chapters are crucial, but you can't forget to deliver right now. We still often feel like we're watching promises or extended trailers for the really good movie or show that we promise is coming up soon. And you're like, but this was just now a promise for yet another one. So we need better scripts, better directors, especially for Marvel. I think James Gunn did a pretty good job directing, but again, he needed a little bit more action. But for Marvel, 3 streaming directors in a row, that was a ridiculous decision. And stronger actors. Oh, wait a minute, let me explain. All right, everyone does a nice job this year. Some people do better than nice. But where are the groundbreaking performances that demand to be seen on screen? And that's not just an actor problem, that's a script issue again as well, because you need to create that opportunity for the actors to build upon. And more beefcake and cheesecake and strength of personality, because confidence and making us laugh are sexy too. I'm looking at you, RDJ. That's right, Marvel used to have a beefcake trinity. And these 3 actors drew in casual audiences. And I gotta say, I have this friend who went to see all the MCU movies for Tony Stark. Loved him, although she's not so, as I've been saying, not so into his return. But last night she went to see The Naked Gun and she called me after she saw it and she's like, oh my God, I'm seeing Mortal Kombat. She's never expressed an interest in Mortal Kombat in her life. And she goes, Karl Urban. And I was like, the power of the movie star. We'll see how it does, but make no mistake, he's going to broaden the appeal of that movie. All right, now let's dig into these numbers. Yes, it's true. Fantastic Four fell 66% in its second weekend, which is in line with Captain America 4 and Thor Love and Thunder with their second weekend drops. My goodness. And it's probably going to end up somewhere in between those two movies. It opened a little bigger than Cap 4 and much lower than Thor 4. So it's probably going to be closer to Cap 4. Streets are saying right now maybe 500 million. My goodness. I mean, at least it's pacing ahead of Cap 4 and Thunderbolts and will be Marvel's biggest movie of the year, but still far lower than what Marvel, again, is used to making. I mean, this is not what these movies are supposed to be making, like what? Almost 20 years into a franchise? I mean, again, as I said, it's headed in the wrong direction. There's still that Batman Begins argument, I guess, as we talked about last week, but I don't know, these numbers are disappointing. It's also more successful than the other Fantastic Four movies, but I think at this point it's safe to say that just as general audiences clearly like Batman more than Superman, they're not that into the Fantastic Four. They just aren't. And while we'll talk about Avengers Doomsday, and while some of you Marvel fans are in serious denial right now, and I don't blame you, you've been the frontrunner and the major winner and the savior of Hollywood for a decade. I'm sure this is very hard to digest and shocking. You're in shock. I get it. DC are like, is this first time? All right, so personally, I'm just glad to know I'm not taking crazy pills because while I think that the movie had its moments, I just couldn't understand all of the praise that was coming out of the gate. Well, it turns out that like the praise, the ticket sales were also extremely front-loaded. Okay, so what's really embarrassing for the Fantastic Four is that it's pacing behind the movie that it tried to take down, and that's Superman. Now, Marvel fans had hoped that the international numbers would save them. Last weekend, when you opened lower than Superman, a lot of you were like, oh, but wait till you see our international numbers. That's where we're going to bury you. Well, guess what? They're on par. 2 weeks out, they're almost exactly the same. And Superman's domestic was about 40 million higher in its second weekend. And what do you know? Worldwide, Superman in its second weekend was 40 million, about 40 million ahead. We all told Marvel not to open this movie in July, the last of the big movies of the month, when everyone had already spent all their movie money. We all said, wait for the first weekend in November, where plenty of Marvel movies have found success. And part of me feels that maybe Fantastic Four and Disney's Predator Badlands should have switched release dates. But that would put Predator Badlands too close to Jurassic World Rebirth, which itself has leaned into the horror space. And then also too close to Alien Earth, which starts on August 12th with its own movie of sorts, as it's going to drop 2 hour-long episodes. And honestly, Fantastic Four plays like a small film. It might do very well on digital and streaming as a result. We'll see. I mean, there's the incredible cosmic sequence in the middle, but otherwise, again, it feels small, even with Galactus, who himself gets smaller towards the end of the movie. And while it requires no homework, it also doesn't, set up the future, which I think would have been pivotal. No setup for Avengers Doomsday at all. I mean, there's a little brief tease at the very end, but we still have no idea what leads to that amazing post-credit scene from Thunderbolts, nor if Robert Downey Jr. is even the Doom of this multiverse that we were just introduced to. If Fantastic Four had set up Doom, well, I mean, what's the big saying? Heroes are defined by their villain. And the Fantastic Four movie doesn't really have a villain. I mean, maybe they didn't want to do Doom again, because it's always been Doom in the other Fantastic Four movies, but I mean, Galactus was cool. He was my favorite part of the movie, but he's not like a true villain that they can actually really engage with. The villain was some of their family dysfunction, I think, a little bit, which, a lot of you really gravitated towards. Thunderbolts had a similar situation as well. But I mean, whilst it really connected with some people, neither of them is making a lot of money. So if maybe they had set up Doom here, maybe we'd be having a very different conversation right now. But maybe we wouldn't, because Quantumania set up Kang. And boy, that didn't work out, which brings me back to the quality control note. Also, working on such a tight turnaround schedule can, of course, reap huge benefits. Oh, the next movie's ready to go, baby! But it also can cause major headaches. Disney had to do such a hard last-minute and really awkward pivot because Kang didn't work out, which took Feige's perfectly and beautifully and neatly assembled universe and made it a jumbled mess. And now he's got an upcoming Avengers movie where the Fantastic Four are pivotal to the story and their iconic villain, and yet not a huge hit with audiences. Neither was Thunderbolts. That's the core of the upcoming film. Get in here and take your shirt off, Chris Hemsworth. That's why they pay him the big bucks. I make a joke, but I actually think that will help. Don't go the full Monty like he did in Thor Love and Thunder and turned it into a joke. But, just the shirt. If Feige had waited to see how these movies performed, could he afford to wait? It's really hard. I feel his pain. But my goodness, does he find himself in yet another little bit of a pickle? Thankfully, they're still writing the script for Doomsday. I think there were some rumors or reports that maybe they finished it, but they can unfinish it because Feige has admitted that he has no problem plussing a movie until the very last minute, weeks before. That post-credit scene at the end of Thunderbolts was added just 2 weeks before its release. And I gotta say, it was a great addition to the movie, but it didn't save the movie's box office either. But I think he's gonna need to keep plussing Avengers Doomsday. As for Superman, it did get a very nice headline late last week. Very nice. Rawr, sexy. I love it. As it soared past 300 million domestic. That's the last DC Extended Universe movie that was able to do that was the first Aquaman back in 2018. So that's exciting. But its overseas numbers remain a real problem. Talk about bizarro. This ratio is bizarro backwards, right? The larger number should be from overseas. And if this movie was performing as it should overseas, we would be talk about having a different conversation. We would be having a very different one. Hold on. All right, so I still think it's unlikely Superman will match Man of Steel. There's a chance, though. There's a chance it will match the 2013 movie. It's not impossible, but I don't think it's going to top it. And it's probably not going to be able to match the Batman, not only because of those overseas numbers, but also it's now pacing 5% behind Batman's domestic run. So it's not going to match Matt Reeves' movie. Still, Superman will make more money than any Marvel movie this year because with a 66% second weekend drop for Fantastic Four, Superman's was just 53% and it opened bigger. Fantastic Four probably won't reach 300 million domestically itself. And I think that's largely what's not only making Gunn look good, but is what's saving him. If Zazie thinks maybe he has a little buyer's remorse, he just looks at Marvel's numbers in comparison and goes, at least he's doing better than Marvel, and maybe to some degree he hurt Marvel. So, and I think that makes Zazie chuckle and snuggle a little better at night. And this is all part of what's becoming a legendary year overall for Warner Brothers, leading the industry forward by example. They have an incredibly diverse slate of movies this year. This is what we want to see. They not only have their superhero movie, but they're creating new IP. How exciting is that? And they're about to launch a potential sleeper hit horror movie on Friday. And you know what Zazie did to celebrate? He thanked his employees by laying off 10% of them last week. And some new movies also opened this weekend, but they're both very good, as we're about to discuss, but I think they're clearly very nice ads for what, are really streaming movies down the line. That's a train of thought in Hollywood. You make it a theatrical release, which gives it a little more cachet when it does get to digital and streaming. People are like, oh, that was in theaters. So it's a grown up, it's a real movie, so to speak. Although original streaming movies are getting very good, as we're also going to discuss when we get to the streaming section. But yes, the people who did see The Bad Guys 2 and The Naked Gun loved those movies. Great audience scores, particularly for The Bad Guys 2. The Rotten Tomatoes score for Naked Gun is a little low, but its cinema score is excellent. But the box office for both is not great. Thankfully, both films were super cheap to make and are set to do boffo business on their studios' respective streaming services. Demo-wise, The Bad Guys 2 had extremely broad appeal, while The Naked Gun, Interestingly, it actually ended up bringing in all ages and both men and women. That's a real credit to Pamela Anderson, that she's revamped her image to now appeal, I think, to both sexes. Good job, Pam. I'm very happy for Pamela Anderson. I've certainly become a bigger Pamela Anderson fan after this and The Last Showgirl. And her lovely blossoming romance with Liam Neeson. But wow, was I right about this movie needing more diversity? 70% Caucasian. Just to give you an idea of what it's supposed to be, most movies, most big releases have the Caucasian demo somewhere in the 40s. It should be somewhere in the 40s if you have broad appeal. Maybe the 50s, but 70? That's nuts. They really needed a third main squad member of color like the original movies had. And as I said in my review, the actor was right there, or the role was right there. They just had to expand it. Let's see if these two movies can play all the way through August, or if they get rushed to digital ASAP. As for the rest of the top 10, oh yeah, Neon also opened horror movie Together from real-life couple Dave Franco and Allison Brie, who are going crazy on social media doing weird stuff to promote the movie. It worked, guys. They were in my feed. Were they in yours? And while this is probably going to be a streaming movie soon as well. However, the critic score is pretty darn good, and this isn't a horrible debut. So this movie did what it needed to do, and that's keep their careers alive, as they were both hit hard by brother/brother-in-law James Franco getting canceled. Brie is also playing Evil Lynn, by the way, in the upcoming Masters of the Universe movie. And while everyone focuses on Marvel versus DC, ourselves included, let's take a look at Jurassic World Rebirth, which is ahead of both of them. It will win July. It's on par with the Superman domestic and doing much better overseas. Interestingly, Jurassic World Rebirth is performing as the Batman did. So if James Gunn can fix his overseas problem, he'll be in excellent shape. And also there's F1, also doing incredible overseas, managing to keep pace with Superman, and it's now the biggest movie of Brad Pitt's career, having just edged out World War Z. Couldn't have happened to a better movie. I love this movie, and I'm excited to see how Brad Pitt, director Joseph Kosinski, and Apple Films spend their new capital. Kosinski is already lining up a new Miami Vice, not cast yet, but after this in Top Gun Maverick, he'll be able to get whoever he wants. That's a hot project. If I was an actor, I'd be like, submit me for that. He also has another film set with Apple. While Brad Pitt, well, he's always busy. Very prolific actor. But of course, right now he's filming his Once Upon a Time in Hollywood sequel, The Adventures of Cliff Booth, which I hope involve a trip to the barbershop because that mustache is horrible. Oh my God. Isn't the whole appeal of Cliff Booth is that he's super cool? My God, maybe that appeals to guys, but I think for women, we're like, what's that on your lip? Maybe these aren't good photos. He looks a little better there. I'll reserve judgment for the trailer. My God. Oh, and this is also fantastic for Damson Idris and potentially him becoming the new Black Panther. Let's move over to streaming, starting with Nielsen, per usual, this time for the week of 4th of July. Squid Game was still dominating, but remember on Nielsen, this is all 3 seasons rolled into one. But that's an amazing number that we rarely see on these charts. While Love Island also continued to be quite the phenomenon. And original streaming movies did very well for the holiday week, with both Heads of State and The Old Guard 2 posting strong numbers. They're not at the top of the chart, but that's still very impressive. I really enjoyed Heads of State. I'd love to get a sequel. And Idris Elba's career, I think, is doing really well right now. He was not only in this, but he's also a voice in Netflix's upcoming Fix, which I just saw last night, and he's one of the standouts. Great, really fun movie. Very raunchy, though, very adult. As I tweeted last night, it's Lady and the Tramp if Seth Rogen made it. But The Bear continues to be soft in season 4, because I still maintain that season 3 did real damage. Did you watch The Bear season 4? Did you get all the way through it? I tried it, couldn't get through the first episode. So on the originals chart, part 1 of The Sandman's final season is also soft, while in its second and final week, with another 3-episode drop, Ironheart still managed to stay in the top 10, and it held steady. It didn't gain any viewers, but it didn't lose any either, although it did drop 1 spot from 6th to 7th place. Not bad for a show that Disney sent out to die. with no advertising and up against major streaming and theatrical competition. This was right before a major holiday, and Superman was about to come out. And also, they just did the same thing to Eyes of Wakanda with a last-minute switch. It was jumping all over August, and at the last minute, they were like, bam, we're putting it out instead August 1st. Maybe Ryan Coogler, who's behind both shows, should make a call. Speaking of Coogler, though, his Sinners hit Max on July 4th, and at the end of this, the window of this chart, and it's still placed 4th. So I'll be interested to see how it does on Max next week when we see its first full week on the streaming service. K-pop Demon Hunters, it's doing well, but these aren't the kind of numbers that we're seeing over on Netflix's chart, probably because those are global numbers and this is just the US. But still, very, very popular. Wait till we talk about it in just a moment. And America's movie of choice for the 4th of July is still Independence Day, almost 30 years later. Over on Netflix's charts for just last week, there's Untamed at number 1, and it already has a season 2? What? I tried to watch Untamed. I watched the first episode. I guessed the big twist halfway through the episode. I guessed it, and I was bored. I went to Wikipedia and I read who the killer was. What was your experience with Untamed? But for the one episode that I did watch, I could tell this show was cheap as fuck. So I think that's one of the reasons that it got a season 2 renewal. I mean, yeah, these numbers are actually good. But gosh darn it, there are so many recent Netflix shows that aren't getting renewed that I really want to see renewed. So I find it a little frustrating. No offense to the Untamed fans out there. Identify yourselves. The Hunting Wives, for all its sauciness, these numbers are not so great, which is pretty embarrassing for the show to be super saucy and no one cares. You can keep your sauce, please. And there's Sandman, again, not doing particularly well with its final season. But here's the real headlines over in movies, where Happy Gilmore 2 is not only the biggest movie of the week, but the biggest movie debut for Netflix ever. And K-pop Demon Hunters has now become Netflix's most watched animated movie of all time. Hooray, hooray, please watch it, it's so good. It's nice to see Netflix's movie division making big moves, whereas all the attention usually is focused on shows. It certainly helps also that these are essentially free movies. They're no extra cost, and most people are subscribed to Netflix. It's the Coke of streaming services. It was first, it's the most prolific. And I think that makes some people, both fans and haters, speculate that maybe these movies wouldn't have performed as well if they were released theatrically. What do you think? I gotta tell you, with these two, I think they would have done well in theaters. I think they would have done really well. I think they're fun. I think they're good. So what do you think? I'd be curious. What's your thought? Then on iTunes, 28 years later, just dropped, and it's number 1. Look at the poster they gave it. They should have had this poster for the theatrical release. I mean, the posters were cool, but I mean, they have an amazing cast in this film. They should have spotlighted that more. While Disney is doing very well, even though Lilo and Stitch and Thunderbolts are eventually going to hit Disney+. And I'm glad to see Materialists having some staying power, because that's a really good movie. That Jack Black collection, I checked it out. It's just $8 and look at the movies that are included. You should definitely pick that up. That's an amazing, amazing sale. And the original Happy Gilmore might be available on Netflix, where you saw it in number 3 for that last week, but it's continuing to do very well here as well. Life of Chuck, which also just came out on digital, doing less good. That Tom Hiddleston, people don't seem to be interested unless he's Loki. But when he's Loki, I'm glad he's coming back for Doomsday. Get him out of that chair. He's so great. Well, the Naked Gun trilogy is still charting. That's nice. Maybe that's a hopeful sign for the new movie. As for this coming weekend, Hollywood is hoping that they counter-program the heck out of this weekend, with both Freakier Friday and Weapons hitting theaters. That's a really good 1-2 punch. There shouldn't be a ton of, I'm excited for both, but are you? That's very interesting. But for the most part, they should be able to both coexist quite well. Fantastic Four, by the way, will also be losing its premium screens to another FF, Freakier Friday. That's getting Dolby, while Weapons takes IMAX. Oh, look at the 2 movies sharing. I love it. ScarJo also has a small family comedy opening in limited release. Speaking of Scarlett Johansson, though, on digital on Tuesday, Here comes Jurassic World Rebirth. What the heck? Uni loves the small theatrical window, don't they? I mean, part of me is like, maybe they should have waited and let it try and get a little closer to $1 billion. But, Uni, when they release their movies on digital, they still tend to do okay in theaters. And I think they must feel they've done their internal calculations and they feel that Jurassic World Rebirth has run out of steam. Also, maybe it'll do extremely well on digital. Universal makes bank on digital. So maybe they feel Jurassic World Rebirth will be a much cheaper alternative for the rest of the summer, and they can inflict even more damage on Superman and Fantastic Four, which will still be in theaters. I think Superman's not going to digital until the end of August. All right, so as for, what do you think of that? Are you going to watch Jurassic World Rebirth on digital this week? As for streaming movies, on Wednesday, Prime Video has another action comedy with Eddie Murphy, Pete Davidson, and Keke Palmer. Can it do as well as Heads of State? And then with shows, also on Wednesday, appropriately, here comes the first half of season 2, 4 episodes, and Apple TV has season 2 of Platonic. That's a very small show with like half-hour episodes, but gosh darn it, if I don't really enjoy it. I really like Seth Rogen and Rose Byrne. I think they have wonderful chemistry together. And I got season 2 screeners in advance, and it's an incredible binge. Too bad Apple is releasing it weekly, but there will be 2 episodes starting on Wednesday with the first drop. And that's this week's Movie Math. What have you been watching? What do you plan to watch? And do you think Freakier Friday and Weapons can give this summer one last box office hurrah? What do you think? Are you planning to see either one in theaters? Maybe both? Maybe both? Share those thoughts down below. Subscribe today. And of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.